It's a great success. I congratulate the organizer, Professor Ildefonso Placentis, for being very visionary in organizing such an important event and linking soil and water together in a changing climate. So it's a very important topic, very well done, very nicely organized, presentations were excellent, very good discussion. I think it's more than what I had expected. Some of the presentations, including the poster sessions and including the discussion, it is very open, very frank, very pertinent, very nicely organized, and all the arrangements are excellent. The detail attention has been given to everything. So it's really an exemplary of a good congress, good conference. It is very hard to describe. In my professional career, this is the greatest honor. I learned this is one of the oldest universities in Europe, 700-year-old. So two things which are very important. A, I got selected, which is of course a greatest honor, and B, that it's identified with soil science profession. So combination of both, it's something. When I was contacted by Professor Ildefonso Pla, I first could not believe it. I thought maybe this is not possible, but it's a great honor. The health of soil, plants, animals, people, and ecosystems is one and indivisible. They cannot be separated. Healthy soils support healthy plants, healthy animals, and healthy people who depend on them, and healthy environment. Any soil which has been degraded in the historic past, any civilization that took their soils for granted and neglected them, those civilizations vanished. Whether it was Mayan, whether it was Incas, whether it was Indus Valley civilizations, whether it was some Middle Eastern civilization, including in this part of the world. So it's very important that we do not take soils for granted, because soils have many critical ecosystem services. Food is one of them. Climate moderation is another one. Water renewability quality is another one. Biodiversity. Soil is a largest reservoir of gene pool, germplasm. So the biodiversity is another one. So there are numerous ecosystems. Soil is also source of raw material for many elements. So maintaining soil is essential both to human well-being and to nature. Whenever soils are cultivated by extractive practices, extractive is when you mine soil fertility, you take more out of soil than what you put into it, then that soil depletes the organic matter content. For example, if the nutrients are not supplied and we keep harvesting the crops, then the nutrients required by plants, even to produce a very small, come from decomposition of organic matter, where the nutrients released by decomposition are absorbed by plants, but then CO2 and other gases go back in the atmosphere. So historic land use and management in many developing countries such as Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Caribbeans, where the farmers are resource poor and they do not replace the nutrients, there the soils have lost a very large proportion of their original organic matter content, sometimes as much as 75%. In the Midwest United States where I work, it's probably 30% or maybe 50%, but in general about 30%. So the idea is to reverse that trend. So we create a positive soil carbon budget. You put more carbon in the soil than it is lost by decomposition, by erosion, by leaching. And that will restore the carbon pool eventually. Maybe in one generation, like 25 years, 30 years or 40 years. In a drier climate such as here in Yeda, maybe 200 kilogram, 300 kilogram per hectare. In a humid climate such as Ohio, maybe 500 to 1,000 kilogram per hectare. The rate varies from place to place, but over time it can be restored. I think communication with the policymakers is one part. People who make decisions, like politicians, Secretary of the Environment, Secretary of Agriculture, those who are in charge of forestry and cropland, grazing land, let them know that soil organic carbon content is important. Communicating through extension agents with farmers, that soil organic carbon is a very important component of soil health, and that there is a critical level of soil organic carbon, such as between 1.1 and 1.5% in the root zone. And if it goes below that, then the use efficiency of inputs decreases. Therefore, communicating to the farmer that maintaining organic carbon content to level above the critical, like 1.5%, is a great idea. That way their use efficiency of fertilizers, water, energy, all the other inputs will be improved. That way soil become resilient to climate change. They do not suffer from drought because the organic matter content stores water in the soil. So these are benefits. It's a matter of communication. I don't want to use the word education.
Sorry?
I do not want to use the word education.
Education.
I think the communication. Scientists can also be educated by the farmers and by the policymakers, but it's a dialogue, it's a communication which is important. I think that's a very good question. I think we are expecting farmers and land managers to provide ecosystem services to the society on the whole. For example, climate change mitigation is beneficial to the entire world. Water quality, renewability are important for any society, any civilization. So if we are expecting farmers to do this, perhaps society should compensate them financially for ecosystem services that they provide. And this compensation is not a subsidy, it's not a handout, it's not a donation, it's not a charity. It is something that they deserve. And if we do not compensate, they probably will not do it. So it's very important that they are compensated. If we mistreat, misuse, if we do not give a proper societal value to any commodity, it suffers from the tragedy of the commons. And tragedy of the common means that natural resource, whether it's water, ocean, air, is abused. It's destroyed, its quality is degraded. And that is exactly what has happened to soil, to climate, to water and oceans, air. I am very optimistic. I think with the communication, with the proper incentive, with the proper policy, the technology exists. We need to keep continuously improving the technology, but whatever technology already exists, we should apply it. I mentioned yesterday in my talk, keep the ground always covered, doesn't matter by what material. If it's a biomass, that's the best way to cover. The biomass can be alive or can be dead. It can be grown as a cover crop or the crop residue. We must replace what we remove. We must make sure that the nutrient budget, the carbon budget is positive. We must use water resources, especially in dry climate, very judiciously. I think with that, I see a very bright future. I also think right now the population is increasing rapidly, but with the education, especially education of the women in developing countries, I think population will come down eventually. Maybe in 1 century, maybe in 150 years, but eventually, rather than keep growing, I think it can come down to perhaps 4 billion people rather than 11 billion, and that will be an ideal situation. That will be very helpful.